Right, well, thank you to those of you who did take, who have had a go at the quiz for this week. In amongst all of the chaos, as I was just trying to get across in a very hurried way ahead of it, YouTube waited until it was published at 8 o'clock yesterday to suddenly tell me that it had been blocked because every use of any kind of music was causing a problem. And then when I tried to deal with it, it crashed repeatedly. So it was a bit chaotic, but I managed to get a truncated, very short version out in the end. It'll all be sorted with next week's. I know I've got some ideas about ways I can move past it anyway. But here are the answers as promised to you for those of you who took part. Right, we started with the trivia question. Which chart-topping group announced they were splitting up live on stage in April? It was the wonderful S Club 7. Absolutely. People crying all over the world at that one. Okay. The album cover, the first album cover we had, I think a lot of you would have got that one fairly straightforwardly. Yes, it was The Strokes, Room on Fire, one I expect to be a big potential, have big potential for being a winner this Friday as best album of the year. Next lyrics, I've been to the year 3000. Not much has changed, but we live underwater. Told you it was poetry. I've never managed to understand that line. That's quite a big change, isn't it, really? Anyway, if you are a Busted fan or want to check that out, there is you can see their album, A Present for Everyone. There is a potential one for you to check out for 2003. Okay, what about this album? Well, this was Think Tank by Blur. Okay, a bit of a comeback album at the time, almost, I think. Which legendary duo toured for the first time in 20 years? It was Simon and Garfunkel. The next lyrics here, again, I know it might be wrong, but I'm in love with Stacey's mum. Do you remember that? That Stacey's mum song? Stacey's mum has got it going on. Well, there really were some classic pop songs, weren't there, in 2003? Welcome Interstate Managers was apparently the album. So if you were a fan of Stacey's mum, then check it out. Album covers. This was, of course, the wonderful Gaze by The Beautiful South. Love the cover as well. I think it's just a terrific album cover there. Name that album. This was The Darkness's Permission to Land. You see Perm, Mission, The Mission, To, and Land. And with our 4 pictures there. Hope that made sense to you there. Number 10, album covers. Again, the wonderful Phantom Power by Super Furry Animals. One of the great albums from a great group there, I'd say. Next lyrics, lean a little closer. See, roses really smell like poo. Yes, that was a lyric, wasn't it? And from an incredible album as well. Well, 2 albums really, wasn't it? Speakerbox and The Love Below. It's sold as a double album, but one side devoted to each member of Outkast and what they were doing, and this was Andre 3000's side, and his song Roses, which was released as a single. Yes, roses really smell like poo. Lyric of the year, I'd say. So, trivia here, I asked you, the Beatles released Let It Be Naked, which track from the original 70 album was left off? Well, it's kind of a little tricky one there. It was Maggie May. If you're confused by Don't Let Me Down, well, Don't Let Me Down was not on the original album and was then put onto Let It Be Naked. Okay, McCartney making the decision that that song should have been on in the first place, even though it wasn't his. Okay, the odd one out, the greatest hits. Not an easy one, this really, because I'm not sure how many people have encyclopedic memories for when people release greatest hits. But yes, you may have gone for the Eagles, but the Eagles did release a greatest hits in 2003. No idea why, no idea what provoked that. Springsteen released the Essential Springsteen and Erasure. I think that was their first greatest hits actually that came. It was Kylie, who I think had released one the year before. The next lyrics, good old Justin. Can't look at the album here. It's not 2003, it was 2002. But this song, Rock Your Body, was there. No disrespect, I don't mean no harm. But I can't wait to have you in my arms. Hurry up, because you're taking too long. Bet I'll have you naked by the end of this song. Another genius lyric there. That album, of course, may not be this year, Justified, but famously started life as a Michael Jackson album. That's what Pharrell intended for it. He wrote the album essentially for Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson turned it down to Justin Timberlake's great benefit, because of course it was the album, wasn't it, that took him out of being Mr. NSYNC curly hair into being a serious artist and one of the biggest selling of this century. So there we are. Well done, Pharrell. Album covers. Cat Power, You Are Free. A lot of people mentioning it as one of Cat's greatest there. It certainly is a very beautiful album. Everyone knows about it, from the Queen of England to the Hounds of Hell. Absolutely, I'm sure we all know that's from Elephant from Seven Nation Army. And then the trivia, the biggest selling single of the year in the UK. Now, I have to say, I probably would have got this wrong. I would have thought Crazy in Love was, but it wasn't. It was Where Is the Love by the Black Eyed Peas. Another Justin Timberlake track with him singing on it. To say, not one of my favourites, but huge seller, biggest selling single of the year. Number one singles. Well, Elton did have a number one single this year. So did Evanescence. And so did the beautiful Westlife, with a cover of Barry Manilow's Mandy. If I'd been allowed to do my favourite covers round yesterday, it was one of my favourite rounds, that was, where I played 4 songs that in the original that had been covered in 2003. One of them was Mandy, which I think, as I said on that original part of the recording, which you wouldn't have heard, was one I think most many people could have guessed. If someone said to you, well, who covered Barry Manilow's Mandy in 2003? Westlife's a pretty straightforward answer. No, the people who didn't have one that year were Flavour of the Month at the time, I think. Blazing Squad down the bottom there. Remember them? Well, if you don't, you're lucky. Okay, next lyrics. This is, again, another one from an album of 2002, from the Libertines' debut album, but released in this year. He knows there's fewer more distressing sights than that of an Englishman in a baseball cap. Interesting thing for you there. Try putting that into a search engine and typing it in and using Google Images. The first image that comes up makes Doherty sound like a prophet in many ways. Okay. Album covers. Yes, this was Massive Attack, towards the later part, or a secondary part of their career here, with the 100th Window. Still a good album, though. Into the second half, after the death of the intros round that was in the middle, in between. Never mind. The Mercury Prize went to Dizzy Rascal for Boy in the Corner. This wonderful album from 2003, my soundtrack to the year in many ways, was The Thrill, So Much for the City. It stuck with me very well because I met my wife in 2003. And when we went on our honeymoon couple of years later, and got married in 2005, we pretty much did what the Thrills are writing about here, went up and down the west coast of America, and then it came back to being again our soundtrack as we drove up and down. Naming that album, this was Hail, as you can see there, 2 again, and then The Thief, because that's a still from The Thief of Baghdad. Yeah, Hail to The Thief. I know it was an obscure reference, but I'm sure you could have got it. The Radiohead album, again, is obviously going to be right up there and thereabouts this year in the poll. Another piece of trivia. Did you remember Michelle McManus? No, me neither. Okay, album covers, a bit more of an obscure one here, but a very interesting album here. This is The Sea and Cake with One Bedroom. Certainly worth a listen, that. The Sea and Cake. Interesting band, interesting album. I'm sure most of you got this one. If you're having girl problems, I feel bad for your son. I got 99 problems, but ain't one. Yes. Jay-Z. Not quite sure what Beyonce would have made of that line, but there you go. The Black Album, often thought of as his masterpiece, although others, I suppose, will say it's the Blueprint. Then the album cover. Again, any of you heavy rock fans out there would certainly have known this was Metallica with St. Anger. And then that's followed up by another Name That album. I'm not sure this one wasn't actually quite easy in the end, apart from maybe the cheeky use of the ass in the middle. It's a deer. It's a cat from a dwarf. It's a man scratching his ass. It's a trophy. The FA Cup, of course, and it's a waitress. A dear catastrophe waitress. Belle and Sebastian. The Modern Lovers song David Bowie covered on his wonderful album Reality was Pablo Picasso, and as I said, I think improved it greatly. Next lyrics, a bit of Christina Aguilera here. Maybe learn a little bit faster, made my skin a little bit thicker, makes me that much smarter. So thanks for making me a fighter. Another album cover. Again, as I said, I've still not seen anyone mention it for this year. They're not a great group in terms of... I'm not a massive fan of them, but they were very popular, weren't they? Elbow with a cast of thousands. Which of these bands did not headline a Glastonbury this year? This turned into the final question because all of the rest involved music. Well, it was Coldplay, R.E.M., Radiohead and Moby, all headlined. I can't help but sit there and think you'd have been a bit disappointed if you turn up and found your headliner was Moby. But anyway, not to knock him too much, but headliner? Well, that's where we were in 2003, I suppose. Coldplay headlined the year before, I gather, in 2002, even though they had an album out this year. Very sad that we didn't then get the next one. But question 45 was a maths question, in which I gave you a convoluted maths sum based on various songs from that year. But as I say, we live and learn. I hope those of you who have given this a go at least enjoyed it some of the way, even though it was a bit strange and stilted. And I hope you'll come back next week when whatever the year will be that we're dealing with in Richard Shaw's quiz, Richard Shaw's poll. We will have another quiz in place, and there will be nothing that can be copyrighted out. So YouTube will not be able to destroy the quiz this year, for this year. So please do come back and see you next week. And if you did enjoy this at all, please do donate to my Young Minds account. Okay, it's saying up there that the new quiz will be there Tuesday 27th at 8 p.m. I'm starting to think I might put it up a little bit earlier than that, so it can be accessed at any time. But please do donate, please do give me any feedback on Twitter. Please come back next week when we'll be able to start properly. Okay, thank you very much, all of you.